In Joplin last night, there was a severe thunderstorm that passed by and produced a tornado. And I believe we have some video of that tornado as well, some of the damage. The National Weather Service survey confirms an EF-1 tornado touched down in Joplin, packing peak winds of 95 miles per hour last night. The storm first damaged an outdoor maintenance storage building at a golf course near West 2nd Street and South Schifferdecker Avenue. From there, the tornado tracked northeast, knocking down numerous trees, and a few homes sustained minor roof damage, while others were actually hit by falling trees like you see right there. However, some great news, no injuries were reported.